Hello, Av Geeks, Sky Gazers, whatever you want to call yourselves. Welcome back to Up and Away's lesson stream series, our ninth session, actually. Sorry we've been gone for a little while. We are busy high school students, I guess. But we're back at it, and the year is almost coming to an end. And we are approaching also the end of the beginnings of Up and Away lessons on VFR flight. And I'll just show you. We'll just get right into it. So right now you can see we're at a different place today. We're not at Seattle. We're not at Hawaii. We're in fact at San Jose International Airport, our local airport actually. And today we'll be talking about communicating in the air with air traffic control, as well as the bazillions of rules that go into organizing airspace for different purposes and for different aircraft. We won't get too deep into that because there are way too many rules, but we will give you the basic idea. But so we've been discussing in our previous streams that we need a way to organize airplane traffic going through the air. Now that you know how to fly your airplane, it's time to go into the air. It's time to organize the traffic that's in the sky. And we first introduced that with a traffic pattern, just going one loop around the airport. And then we extended that to learning how to talk to ATC while you're at the airport. So we learned about clearance, ATIS, ground, and tower, which are the four main people you communicate with on the ground. But, once you take off, you're what? You're in the air. And it turns out controlling people in the air is harder than controlling people on the ground. Rightfully so, I guess. And we're going to be talking about that today. So, and another thing is, now that we're talking about going airborne and we're talking about flying actual flights, just going around the airport, that's not going to be enough, right? Now we want to expand the complexity of our flights. And as a result of, you've probably seen like all sorts of different kinds of airplanes. You've seen the small ones like the Cessna 172 that we're going to be flying today. You've seen like the heavy aircraft, like the ones you see at San Jose Airport. I wonder if they're here. Oh, they don't show up. You've probably seen like the Boeing 737s and A320s and 747s, all those commercial aircraft.
Southwests all day long.
Yeah, at San Jose at least.
Southwests
Yeah,
all day long.
yeah. And so we've got different sized aircrafts. We've got different sized airports. We've got this giant one over here, and then over there, I don't know if you can see it in here. Can you? I can't tell. Where is it? Oh, it's right there. And then over there is our Reed Hillview, much tinier airport. So we need a way to sort of talk about all these airports. We need a way to organize them. And that's what we're going to show you today. So let me just open the slides. Yeah. So welcome to ATC Part 2 and Airspace classes. And my face is covering the slide. Oh well. All right.
All right, so we have a lot of airspace classes that we're going to cover today. But before we cover the airspace classes, we will remind you of the en route communications, which are the departure control and approach controls. So right after you take off, tower will either hand you off to a different controller, or they will say frequency change approved, which means that if you don't need flight following, which is you requesting someone to watch you on the radar from your departure to your arrival airport, someone's just watching over you. If you don't want that watch, you get to switch to your own frequency and you have to self-announce on a frequency that's unmonitored. But if you do want someone to follow you, you will switch to a specific frequency and controllers will follow you. They will follow your tiny dot on their radar all the way from your departure airport to your arrival airport. And those are called approach and departure controls. But mainly that's for VFR pilots. But for airliners, departure and approach controls are mandatory. Right after you take off, tower will hand you off to a departure control, and departure control will guide you and they will follow you throughout your entire flight. They will also monitor your aircraft and they will provide you with vectors. Vectors are basically certain degrees to fly to. So they can say fly heading of 360, which means north, fly heading of 070, which is 70 degrees, and they might give you a specific altitude. That is for spacing. Spacing means that there are a lot of aircrafts around you and they don't want a collision, because that is very bad. and basically they vector you around each other. So they might tell you to go to the left via the vectors, and then they'll make someone go to the right via the vectors, so you guys don't end up on a collision path. That is basically spacing and collision avoidance.
You want
For
to give me
approach
a...
controls,
Oh, are you going to give me a sample takeoff clearance? Because I'm ready for that.
sample takeoff. What do you mean by
So
that?
once you're done explaining controls, we can demonstrate just a quick takeoff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then approach controls basically do the same thing. They space you in because big Boeing and Airbus aircrafts cannot land right behind each other. There's wake turbulence, which is turbulence generated by the wings and stuff like that. So ATC spaces them out by either time or miles. So maybe like 5 miles away from each other, or they can do it by 6 minutes away from each other. The bigger the aircraft, the bigger the space between each aircraft is. And it is crucial that a Cessna does not fly right behind a Boeing 747 because they will get flipped right around.
And if I might butt in real quick, this is why they categorize aircraft into different classes based on their max takeoff weight, because bigger aircraft have more wake turbulence. So, for example, big planes, like major wide-body planes, especially like 777, the Boeing 747, they're considered heavy. So on radio calls, they'll say the radio call sign, and then they'll add heavy. So they'll say, for example, Delta 467 heavy, and that way other pilots in the vicinity know that Delta 467 is a big plane and has more wake turbulence. And one more thing real quick, the A380, which was the largest plane, which is the largest passenger plane in the world, it sits alone in its own category called super. So if you're ever listening to air traffic control and then they say Emirates 345 super, that's the way you know that it's an A380 they're talking to. So fun fact.
Yep.
That's why I have to space them out.
Due to those categories, they will space you out by either 5 miles or by minutes. And spacing is crucial because if you look at bigger airports, one aircraft will land, the tower right when they touch down, the tower will clear someone to line up on the runway, line up and wait. Once the aircraft that was landing taxis off the runway, the aircraft that was lining up will take off right away. And then they would clear another aircraft to land. Once they touch down, another person would line up. So spacing is crucial because the approach control gives tower enough time to take off aircraft in between each landing. Because if we don't take off in between each landing, then they would either have to utilize a different runway or no takeoffs are done at all, which is very bad for the airport. So that's why spacing is important.
Let me quickly... I actually pulled up a little bit of a radar. So instead of looking at the slides for a sec, let's take a look at... I have Flight Radar 24 open here. I
love it.
You can kind of see the airplanes flying around. I'm not so sure that... There's not many flying around right now, so this might not be the greatest example to show separation, but... Yeah, I mean, you can see, like...
Go to, like, I don't know, New York.
New York?
Yeah.
That'll give me time to zoom out.
Honestly, if you go to Anchorage, I can basically promise you that you'll find busier airspace because of all the cargo. And New York's going to be busy, no doubt, but
there you go.
Anchorage has been on a different level lately.
Over the ocean, I think.
You can kind of see there's like a pattern. See the pattern of airplanes here, here, here. They like form this little square, almost.
Wait, on the right side.
Oh yeah, and on the right side, you see all these aircraft coming in on approach.
On the right side, over the ocean, they're going in.
Yeah. Just like that.
Perfectly spaced. And that takes skill.
Yeah.
This
is what spacing is.
If you click on them, you'll be able to see the flight paths, and then that's like, it shows you the pattern that they're using to space them out.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot one more thing. Vectors aren't just directions to fly or altitude, it is also speed. So they might tell you reduce or fly a little faster to a certain speed. That's how vectoring works.
All right.
The last thing I want to cover is center control.
Let's do a quick takeoff first. So
Okay, cool.
just yeah. All right, I've just got the plane ready for takeoff. Although there's not actually much to do.
What is your call sign? Should I just make a random call sign?
It just says November 172 Sierra Papa. You can make up a random one if you want, but
What runway are you on?
30
30
left at San Jose Airport.
Oh. November 172 Sierra Papa, San Jose Tower, runway 30 left, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 172 Sierra Papa. So usually takeoff clearances are pretty easy. Everything else is harder than that. Let's get some loudness in here. All right, going full throttle now. Whoa, I can't keep straight. Wait till 60 knots before rotating or pulling up back on the yoke. Just so you remember, 60 knots is rotation time. Steven, would you have given me a vector after takeoff? Or I guess you now what could happen is like you can get a vector as soon as you take off and then you're handed off to departure control. Alright, so we're in the air.
I'll just wait till you climb above.
Yeah. Just maintaining a steady climb rate, 1,000 feet per minute. As you can see, the vertical speed indicator, if you remember this from the last, was it the last lesson? Or was it 2 lessons ago? It was one of those. Alright, we're through 500.
Right. November 172 Sierra Papa. Contact departure frequency 123.4.
Departure on 123.4, 172 Sierra Papa. So we'll teach you how to use this bit, but basically once you get that command,
so that's basically the handoff from tower to departure control.
Yeah. And then would I have to call into departure?
Yes.
Yeah. San Jose departure, good morning, this is 172 Sierra Papa, climbing through 1,300 feet at 90 knots.
November 172 Sierra Papa, NorCal departure. 3 miles north of San Jose Airport, flight heading of 020, climb maintain 5,500.
San Jose departure, 3 miles after departure, fly heading 020, climb maintain, please repeat altitude.
Skyhawk 172 Sierra Papa, turn right heading 020, climb maintain 5,500.
Turn right heading 020 and climb maintain 5,000 for 172 Sierra Papa. So now we'll just go ahead and begin the right turn. I think we're about 3 miles out. To 020, which would be oh my god, that thing is blocking my way. Right there. So you just begin the right turn. That's what basically the vector is. They'll tell you an altitude to maintain, they'll tell you a heading to go to, and you just follow that as you are in departure. And you can see your map starts to move around as well. It'll take a while for us to reach 5,000, so let's just go ahead and move on to the next next thing. So I'm just going to pause real fast.
One tip is that there are multiple departure frequencies. So Nikhil is currently simulated on 123.4, but after a while he's going to get switched to a different frequency, and that's because he's getting switched to a different controller. Each controller controls a specific sector on a map, and they would hand you off to a different controller, basically, because one controller cannot control the entire United States.
And speaking of the entire United States, what is this next frequency we're going to talk about has how many zones? 13 across the United States. I forgot the exact number.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I wasn't listening.
Since we're talking about center now, since you just said the entire United States, so now we're about to talk about a frequency that covers very, very large portions of the United States.
I actually don't know how many centers there are, but I did find a map earlier of the Tracons, which is the departures and
Mhm.
approaches. But center is basically the people on the top. They don't do much, but they watch you fly. Basically, after you depart, you go through departure control. After departure control is done with handling with you, they will hand you off to center control. Center control is the last people that you talk to. They just watch you fly. They just sit there and watch you fly. I honestly don't know what they do. But
They're
apparently, it's
probably
one
the
of the
most
hardest
important.
controlling jobs.
Yeah.
It's one of the most critical, hardest positions. I don't know why. Maybe I will visit a air traffic control center and ask them why. But for now, we don't really know what they do. They just work in pairs and control aircrafts, and it's the hardest one, as we know.
I mean, the aircraft are also flying really fast. They have to deal with a bunch of different types of aircraft,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
mainly,
if you
yeah.
go on your Flight Radar 24 and you scroll out to a huge section of the United States and be like, that's what. Or how about you scroll to SoCal,
Why don't we
like
just show the whole
between
United
Bay Area and
States?
SoCal? How about between Bay Area and SoCal? Like go to KPRB. Can you
Okay,
type in KPRB?
give me 1 second. It's a little bit lagging out right now. I should probably zoom out a
You can
bit
just type
more.
in the search bar if you want.
Yeah, I theoretically could. That's possible, Robles, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're not. Oh man, I can't actually close this ad. That sucks. I'm not trying to
So
free
now if you
advertise.
zoom in just a bit,
I mean, that's possible, Robles, right?
yeah, yeah, like that. So this is what center would see, basically. Now there are many controllers, few actually, but if you zoom out just a tiny bit to cover the actually cover the entire California. I think Oakland Center covers the entire California and somewhat Nevada too. So that there right there that is what Oakland Center sees, and that is what they deal with.
Yeah,
Although
basically.
not all of them, because some of them are under
Anish in the chat is
approaches.
asking which airports are free to use.
Oh, so don't worry about choosing any particular airport today. You can go to Seattle or Hawaii or whatever. We're just showing you like control frequencies in general, and we'll be showing you a VFR sectional soon. So, and that
I
that
guess
one
we'll move
doesn't
on
actually
to
appear in the Explain Mobile.
yeah.
So yeah, basically, as Stephen was saying, Oakland Center covers like all of Northern California and a little bit into the ocean, and then down south you have LA Center, so near Los Angeles. And yeah, this is what they see. This is probably why their job is very hard, even though they don't actually do way too much. I mean, they have to hand off a lot of people to and make sure that the right separations are maintained. Because then again, center is usually contacted as aircraft are in their cruising altitude or in their major portions of climb. They're going really fast, so they have a lot to deal with. Yeah, and okay, we've basically covered all of the major air traffic control frequencies, and now that we have a way to communicate with all the airplanes in the air through different stages of flight, how do we organize them, right? Like you can't just let a plane go anywhere. Like what is ATC supposed to tell them? And now we're going to talk about, the basic rules. Don't want to get too deep into it, but the basic rules that sort of govern what airplanes can be where, when, I guess. Like, was that a weird sentence? That was a pretty weird sentence. But anyway, behold the world of dizziness and colors of yellows and greens. This, a VFR or visual flight rules sectional chart. And actually, why don't I show you a different map first so you don't freak out? If you look at this map, it's a little bit easier to read, right? You can see that it looks like the Bay Area. You have the lake here, you've got Pacific Ocean on the left, and this one's a little bit easier to look at. I wonder what these look like. Oh, JK, that's a bit too small. But yeah, we're going to be actually talking about this map. You can kind of tell there's a lake down the middle here, and then the Pacific Ocean here on the left. And then the green and yellow, the green and peach obviously represent, mountains, hills, just terrain in general. And what does the yellow represent?
Cities you can see at night.
Oh yeah, so that actually makes sense because yellow is light. So yeah, those would probably be helpful if you're flying at night. You don't want to be flying over like you probably don't want to be flying here at the dead of night because then all you'd be able to see is like the one airport over here or over there. Let me go back to the Bay Area though. So we just took off from San Jose International Airport, and that would be. I wish I had a pointer for this, but that would be what if you see the little cross, the pointer in the middle of the screen. I'm putting it on top of San Jose Airport right now, and as you can see, all the major airports are colored in this bluish color, and they either have lines on them or they're like circles, like Reed Hill views, or sometimes they'll be purple. So like here, you've got many airports that are in purple. You've got Half Moon Bay right here. Yeah, but most of the major airports, which in the Bay Area are San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose, those are blue with lines through them, and those lines represent the runways. That's essentially the basic of what this is. Like, if you had to start building an airspace map, you want to put airports in it because airplanes need airports to land at, take off at. So that's where you'd start. But then what do? Now you need to start organizing aircraft. Now you got to start picking what kind of airport do I need a certain amount of control over because of the size of aircraft I'm dealing with. Whoever wants to talk about that, go ahead.
So I guess we dissect the airspaces down.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just start with Class Alpha. So there are a couple different airspaces: Class A, B, C, D, E, and G. There's no F. But Class Alpha is not on the chart because Class Alpha is above 18,000 feet. Most general aviation aircrafts like a Cessna do not fly up to 18,000 feet. So for most pilots, do not have to worry about Class Alpha.
And that's the 18,000 feet. That's the transition altitude, right?
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
So Class Alpha starts at 18,000 feet and it goes up to 60,000 feet. So flight level 060 or flight level 600.
Yep. Oh, I should probably cover this.
And then
get rid of that. Okay.
Okay, so we'll go. So Class Alpha is a little easy. It's just we won't get there anytime soon. Class Bravo is solid blue lines on the chart. They surround big airports like San Francisco or LAX.
Yep.
So maybe you can bring up SkyVector and show them what a Class Bravo airspace looks
Oh
like.
yeah. Whoops.
Just like San Francisco Airport.
Yeah.
They're solid blue lines.
Yeah. So in the middle of the SkyVector screen right now is San Francisco Airport, and you can see there's this giant blue perimeter around it. All that is San Francisco Airport's fault. And I think Oakland, maybe. Might be Oakland's fault too.
Maybe you have to zoom in a little bit. We'll see on.
So like if you follow this line, this doesn't zoom in anymore. If you follow this line like this, goes around the Bay Area like that, and then it doesn't cut into San Jose, but it just comes around like this. Yeah. So yeah, that's a Class Bravo airspace. San Francisco gets a lot of traffic and needs all this airspace around it.
Bravo airspace is important to know because for general aviation pilots, you are not allowed inside Class Bravo airspace unless you get a clearance. And the clearance will be like November 172 Sierra Papa, you're cleared into San Francisco's Class Bravo airspace. If you don't hear that and you go into a Class Bravo airspace, you get in trouble. And of
Phone
course,
call.
We've mentioned this before. When you get in trouble, they don't say you got in trouble. They give you a phone number, which is equivalent to you saying, "Yeah, you got in trouble."
It's like getting a citation at school.
We'll move on to Class Charlie airspace.
Yep.
Class Charlie airspace surround medium-sized airports like San Jose or Oakland. They are solid magenta lines.
Yeah.
So if you can show that.
Yeah, I'm showing that in the middle of my screen now. I can make the SkyVector window a bit bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see, San Jose Airport now is in the middle of my screen. This is the airport we just took off from. You can see there's like several different arcs of magenta lines, but basically they surround San Jose Airport because it's a medium-sized airport, class Charlie. And you can, I don't know if you can see it, but if you look closely, hold on. There
One
is a
thing I want to
C.
mention.
There's like a letter C next to it.
Where?
Or is that?
What? I'm not looking at you.
There's like a, if you, do you see the text Mineta San Jose International, and then it says CT 124.0, and then a star, and then the letter C.
Seeing the blue
Yeah.
circle?
Yeah, the
Is that
blue
what you're talking
circle.
about?
Yeah.
I believe that's pilot control. Oh no, that's CTAF. So CTAF
Yeah.
uses the same frequency as the tower.
Ah, okay. Oh, hold on. Yeah, so that's it. That's just the magenta line, medium airports. That's basically it. We'll move on to the next one, right?
And before we move on, I
Yeah.
want to say that if you might see fractions around the map, if you can point out a fraction inside the airspaces.
Oh
Do you see
yeah.
them?
Let me go.
Fractions are basically, I don't know if you can see, but the airspaces are chunked into so many puzzle pieces. Like they look like puzzle pieces that are connected to each other.
Give me
Each
a
puzzle
sec.
piece has a
My
fraction.
my thing is like not working. That's awkward. Okay, let me just quit it. Keep talking. I'll figure this out.
So each puzzle piece is a fraction, and each puzzle piece has a fraction. And I don't know, I think the one I see by the bottom left corner of the class Bravo airspace, it says 110 or 180. So the 100 means that the class Bravo airspace goes up to 10,000 feet because it's on the top.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
yeah. I'm looking at
80
it.
on the
Yeah.
bottom means that it starts at 8,000 feet. So it's a fraction. It's 100 on top and 80 on the bottom. 100 means it starts at 10,000, and on the bottom, 80 starts at 8,000. So you can definitely fly below the Class Bravo airspace at 8,000 and not be inside Class Bravo airspace.
Yep. That's basically all that fraction means. And the fraction changes as you go in different points in the airspace, and that just, I think that just depends on, your proximity to the airport. And oh, if you see up here also it says Oakland Class C, Class Charlie, right up there.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we can move on now. Just head through the rest
Perfect.
of these.
Class Delta airspace.
Whoops.
They surround small general aviation airports. And they are dashed blue lines, so easy one to see is Reed Hillview.
I actually don't see it. Oh, I do see it. Yeah, the dash
I don't
blue
see
and
it on
blue.
your OBS. What happened?
Oh, sorry, I disabled it. Give me a sec. Yeah. It's a little bit harder to see. It's a little bit small, but it's like if you see where the center of that center cursor is, I'm like following it right now. There's like a blue dashed line around the airport.
Okay, and then Class Delta is just your normal general aviation airport. Class Echo is your faded magenta line. So if you go down south to San Martin, you see faded magenta lines.
Yeah, these.
Now here it gets more complicated. I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, but inside the faded lines, Class Echo starts at 700. Outside, it starts at 1200.
Yeah. Class Echo is basically everything. Like if it's no other class, it's Class Echo. And
Actually, Class Echo is everywhere.
yeah, that's what I meant. Like if you're trying to figure out what airspace class you're in, and it's not Alpha Bravo Charlie, or it's
Delta.
not Alpha, or not Delta, then you're in Class
It's
Echo. Yeah.
And then it's either starts at 700 feet or 1200 feet.
700 if you're surrounding one of these small airports, and 1200 everywhere else. Yeah.
That's basically it. And then Class Golf is the one uncontrolled airspace. So Class Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo are all controlled airspaces, so you can talk to air traffic control, or technically you have to in Class Alpha, A, B, C, D. But in Class Echo, you don't need to talk to controllers. It's optional that you can talk to them. So Class Echo is basically half controlled, uncontrolled. It's your choice. Class Golf is purely uncontrolled. And Class Golf is basically under the Class Echo. So as I said, Class Echo starts at 700 feet inside. So if it starts at 700 feet, what's below 700? So that's Class Golf. Class Golf is below 700 feet. It's uncontrolled. Now, if
Yep.
you're outside the faded magenta, which starts at 1200, then what happens if you're below 1200? That is Class Golf airspace. That is uncontrolled.
And it doesn't show up on these maps because it's everywhere.
Yeah. And
So,
also, Class Golf is above 60,000 feet. No, Class Echo is above 60,000 feet. My bad. I put it all on the slide. But as you know, Class Alpha goes from 18,000 feet up to 60,000 feet. Anything above 60,000 feet is Class Echo airspace, I believe. Or Golf, I might be wrong. I believe it's Echo. I'll search that right now. Because I don't think anyone goes up to 60,000 feet unless you're an astronaut.
Yeah, unless you're in Concorde, which, hey, might see a resurgence. But yeah, so we just covered all the major. This is how we organize planes in the air. Going down the alphabetical list, A, B, C, D, E, and then G. I completely ignored the phonetics, whatever. Going down that list is dealing with, airspaces more likely to be used by smaller and smaller aircraft. Class Alpha being the biggest, meaning deals with the biggest airplanes and the biggest airports. Class Golf is all the normies in their little planes just not going anywhere, just flying for fun. And yeah, that's how we organize in this overly complicated system that is not just highways and intersections, but rather all this. Circles, lines, dashes. Don't worry about understanding where all of this is. You probably will never have to really memorize where certain airspaces are. You just can't. There's too many. Oftentimes, once you're a pilot, you'll be able to have access to an electronic device that will have a moving map that shows you, what airspaces you're in. I'm not sure if in X-Plane, I think... Oh yeah, if you actually look in X-Plane, let's get rid of this. You can see I'm looking at this GPS here, and zoom out a bit. Oh wait, what did I just do? If you look here, this is actually kind of giving you an idea of the different airspaces. So already most maps that come with airplane cockpits will show you at least basic stuff like this. But if you're using an app like on an iPad, which I think a lot of new general aviation pilots are doing, and even commercial pilots are doing, you'll have a moving map with all the different airspaces and all that. And you'll be trained to know when to switch to whatever frequency depending on what airspace you're in. So don't get too freaked out looking at a map like this. There's no way I'd be able to figure out all this, and no one has to memorize it. Not memorize it. So yeah, that concludes this stream. Let me just... Oh, we're already back in X-Plane. I guess I'll just keep flying around as the end stream music keeps playing, and I cannot control this airplane. Basically, this is... So right here with San Jose Airport, right? This would be your Class Bravo. Sorry, Class Charlie. And down here, Reed Hillview. There's your Class Delta, right here. And then if we go all the way to... I wonder if you could see it yet. Here you go. San Francisco. Here's your Class Bravo, the big airport. And all this airspace that surrounds it here. All of it belongs in that Class Bravo airspace that San Francisco controls. So yeah. Anyone else want to add anything before we say goodbye to our viewers today?
No, stay tuned for our next lesson, which is going to be a full cross-country flight where we do some flight planning. So we'll just go through and review some of the things we talked about today. We will do all the communications, and we'll fly an actual cross-country, which is pretty short, but maybe we'll fly to Salinas or somewhere, or Watsonville, but...
it's a cross-country that's, like, not even cross cities, rather.
And, we might hold it. We are planning to hold it next Saturday.
Yep. All right, that concludes it for this stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys are doing well. I know winter's coming up. Don't get discouraged by the cloudy skies. But if you're in a place of snow, have fun with the snow. Happy holidays to everyone. We might see you in the next stream before the year ends. And yeah, take care. Goodbye.
Cool.